For 20 years, self-help had been preaching the necessity for families and communities to build wealth. And then in the space of about a year, in 1998, we were confronted with the utter destruction of families by abusive, predatory mortgage lenders. We had a borrower who came into my office. One of my loan officers brought him in. And he told me this story. And I said, I listened to him. I said, I don't really believe you. His story was this. He says, I've had a mortgage loan for the last 10 years. And the lender will not let me pay it off. They won't let me refinance this loan. And I said, well, why don't you bring in your paperwork tomorrow and let me look at it, because that doesn't sound right. You know, I'm a lawyer, not a very good one, but, it just doesn't sound right. So he brought in his paperwork, and the next morning I looked at it, and what I saw was a refinance loan 10 years earlier for $29,000, where the company had added $15,000 of upfront charges to refinance a $29,000 loan. When the man signed his X, he couldn't read, for a signature, he walked out of that real estate closing with $44,000 in debt instead of $29,000. He had paid for 10 years at 14%. Had he paid a self-help home loan during that 10 years with the payments he had, he would have completely paid off the $29,000 and had an additional $10,000 built up in a savings account. Instead, he was that day facing foreclosure with a $43,500 balance still owing on that $44,000 loan. So I said, well, let me call the company and we'll figure out whether we can't get you out from under this loan. As I got ready to get on the phone, this gentleman looked at me. He's 55 years old, African American, proud. He had tears that welled up in his eyes, and he looked at me and he said, Martin, the reason I can't lose this home is not because I helped build it with my own hands, which I did. He said, the real reason I can't lose this home is that I have a 9-year-old daughter who lost her mother 3 years ago, and this house is the only connection my daughter will ever have with her mother. And I'm like, oh, God. So I call on the phone. You can tell what's about to happen. I get this person from a Dallas, Texas company. And after about 5 minutes, she says, we're not going to tell you what the payoff balance is for this borrower. After all, you're just a competitor trying to steal my customer. And I just snapped. I told her, you picked the wrong battle with the wrong person. If it takes me the rest of my life, we will chase you to hell and back, and you will never make a loan in the state of North Carolina as long as you live. And so that led us on this journey to set up the Center for Responsible Lending. We put together a coalition that passed legislation in North Carolina that started passing all across the country. And it led me into a battle with Citibank, who acquired this company and in their first shareholder meeting said, all I want to do, this is really the CEO of Citibank said, we think we can triple the amount of money that this finance company gets out of each customer. And I'm like, not over our dead bodies. And so we ended up in this war with Citibank for 4 or 5 years that eventually changed their practices, and you'll be glad to know that the company, Associates First Capital, the largest finance company in the world in 1998, no longer does business anywhere in the United States.